Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. We're coming on to the next bit of the Spitfire build, and things are really going to, I hope, start to come together today. As you may remember, we left each other with my having anointed this particular area here with some white putty. I'm going to sand that off and try and create a nice union here, because as you remember, we had a short shot. I'm going to put the cockpit assembly in. I'll have a word or two about that as well, and we'll get that assembled in. As you can see, the oxygen bottle is already installed in there, as you can see. So we're going to have to jigger this in, because what the build advice says is you put the cockpit into the starboard half, glue it in, and then put the port section in. I've done it a slightly different way, but you can put this in by essentially sticking it up like that through the fuselage halves, and then just essentially maneuvering it in. We'll see how well that goes in a little bit, and then we'll probably do some tail sections and some other bits. I've got some bits to de-sprue here and so on and so forth. So look, let's get right on with it. First things first, I'm going to sand away this. So I've got a couple of sanding sticks. I'm going to start with a 400 and see how we go with this. Now, as you'll know, with this sort of stuff, it tends to shrink a bit, and so we're going to have to just bring down quite a lot of material there. So I'll have at it fairly swiftly, and see what we can do. But it should come away reasonably quickly, this, to be honest. As obviously I haven't put this in yet, I'll move that away somewhere so I don't get dust in it and so on. That makes things easy. That's happened quicker than I thought, to be honest with you. Let's see how we go. Just go to 6. This is 600 grit, by the way, this particular stick. Shall we not put sanding sticks on top of surfaces there? I expect out in modelling land there you were saying, don't do that, you idiot. And quite right too, you would have been. So I may have to pull the magnifier into place to help me with this, but because I can't see particularly well, but we have to be careful with this white putty, because it will chip and crack away. Hopefully we get the shot addressed, and I can put the panel line in. You can see there's a panel line there. I can put that in a little bit later, and it looks like I've got a sink mark in the putty already, but let's see how we go. It looks okay from that side, and probably okay from that side. Let's try not to bang the camera either. Sorry if you can't see this, everybody, but I'm trying to make certain I get this right and get the angle of that angle, so to speak, correct. It looks all right, to be honest with you. Let's move that back up again, and give me a second while I just get this out of the way. We don't want that in the way, do we, really? So yeah, what looks at first glance to be a difficult problem, I think often with these things tends to turn out not to be quite such an issue. Try not to let that filing stick chatter. It's not what we want, really. I hope you can still see that okay. I'm getting used to doing this on camera these days. I think I may be getting better at it. I'm just going to have a look at this through a magnifier. I've got this whizzy new magnifier. It's got lights on it, so it shines lights on things. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you probably can, actually. There we go. So even my little magnifier works through this as well. That's really cool. So I might just go to either an 800 or 1000 grit stick at some stage, but I think that's probably going to turn out to look okay. But we're going to need to be careful with this, because this stuff's quite brittle and tends to fall away at the first opportunity. So I did this with an XB70 Valkyrie that had quite a bad short shot on one of the vertical tailplane members, and Italieri took a long time to send the vertical tailplane member, and I got bored of waiting, so I put putty in it and thought, well, if I can do this I can save some time, which I did, and it did, so that worked out okay. So right, I think we should be okay with that. That's looking, yeah, that's looking pretty good, fore and aft and one side and the other. I don't know what you think about that, everybody, but let's zoom in on it, see if you can see it a little bit better. So we'll just move that through the angles there, and let's see what we can look at, what that looks like. I think that looks okay. It may need a tiny bit of extra work, but what looked like quite a nasty little thing at the start, not so bad really. So let's get on with it. In terms of the cockpit, that's as complete as I can make it. I'll point out some things on this as well. Get my little poker out for a minute. We'll need that. So as you'll probably see, again I'll zero in on this, I'm going to point out some errors that I've made. Can you see that okay? Hopefully you can. The instrument panel decal actually went down really well, and it's superb, it's really good, but as you can see it's skew whiff, so the instrument panel markings are not squarely on, particularly at this side where I'm pointing, they're not squarely on the panel. That's because I couldn't really see it all that well, but it doesn't really notice all that badly, and an awful lot of the detail that goes in here doesn't notice all that much either, to be honest with you. But I think it was worthwhile doing this and putting some weathering in and some dirt, which I used panel line colour and black and brown, and I think that should look all right. They're not seat belts supplied with this, but I'm going to make some seat belts up using tin foil, which I've done before. I did it with again with the XB70 Valkyrie, which was 1/72 scale, so if I could do it in 1/72 I can probably do it in 1/48 scale. So I'm going to have a crack at doing that, and you'll see that on a later film, I think, but I think I can wrestle those you know, the belts in, and at least make a fist of making it look like it's you know, look like it's okay. So the next trick in this area is to get this bit into there. So as I said, normally they say use the starboard half as the basis. I've put these all together because I didn't want dust in this. So the way to do this and to get this jiggered in here is to push the cockpit tub with the little legs out towards the top, and then what we can then do is just lever it in gently, as it were, Mrs. And hopefully we don't have any problems doing that. The problem is that the front of the oxygen bottle tends to snag, and there we go. I think we're about there. And also the bottom of the oxygen bottle snags slightly as well. I've had to ease out some material just between these two members here. There we go, clicked into place with a nice positive sound, so that gets that in there. As you may remember, this is all this all sticks out, so it needs to be stuck together and taped to make it perfect. But with that in on that place, in that space there, that's fine. So that won't, I don't think it'll need to be glued in even. It's a pretty good fit. Now the things to look for here on the bracing members, this member and this member have to be in perfect line fore and aft. As you can see, mine aren't quite there. This has to do with the fact that this member here has a locating tab directly underneath this area here, and I stupidly cut that off. I don't quite know how I did it, don't ask me, but I win the silly buggers award for that. So this is slightly off center, but hopefully with that piece of canopy in there it won't notice too badly. But it is important to get all of this in a line. If you don't, then you have problems later on. But that's that's all, you know, that's all good, I think, there. So what we'll do is I'll just fetch that off for a minute. I'm going to actually glue up this section now, so let's move that out of the way in case we have glue problems. I'm going to close up this canopy now, because where we are in this instruction I can do that. And I'll do the top bit first. Use extra thin, perfectly happily. There we go, back to here. As they say, if you overspill this, don't worry, just let it dry and it will be absolutely fine. So I'm just going to let that dry for a short while, and then I shall tape it shut, get some tape ready. I've got a piece there that I can use anyway. So when it's dry to the touch, we should be okay there. Everything should, the gaps shouldn't be particularly bad. I would suggest. I don't think they're going to be a particular issue. Yeah, there we go. We're there now. So let's just get another piece of tape, and too much there really. So I'll take that without getting in the way of this piece of tape here. So I can do the bottom section there. So we'll have that glued up as well. And I may put a dab of glue in behind these areas here in a minute anyway, but I think that's probably not a bad idea to do, just to hold it in place. But we'll have a look and see how even the cockpit tub is before I do that. Dry to the touch again, so we can just do that. We can leave that to dry off then. So next thing is I'm going to do this bottom section first here, and I'm going to use white cap cement for that. Don't ask me why, it's just a reason. There's no real reason for it, but I feel that it might be a better bond. Probably could have got away with using extra thin, but it's not an area that is going to show in any meaningful way. I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll put the tape there. That's held that shut. And then the last section is that one. And I spotted another thing here which is quite odd. Which is there's a panel line here, and then there's another panel line there, and the two don't match. So that's a bit of a conundrum. Anyone who thinks that they're not meant to match, please let me know, and I won't waste a lot of time, because I think that I don't really want to be honest with you, if it's not necessary. So what I could have done if I was thinking about this is actually bonded from within, as it were. I'll bond the locator pins anyway. It's probably the best way. There we go. I can hold that and do the old one-handed bit of tape thing again, but these things are quite easy to use, aren't they? Let's face it. So let's just check it's dry to the touch. Yep, it is. So that's looking all right there. That looks pretty even there, I'd say. Let's have a quick, because I thought, to be honest with you, that this section would be uneven compared to that one. I think it probably is slightly, but let's have a quick look, see. Oh, I'll switch my light off. The lighting will be even worse than it is. Yeah, that looks all right. I think that's okay. It's as good as I'm going to be able to make it with my limited skills. So, looking down at that, just zoom back out again so that you can see more of what I'm doing. So, yeah, I think that's fine. And then the next thing to put in is this cowling cover. So, forward of this section here on the aircraft were 2 fuel tanks. This is the fuel filler cap here. So that unit sits on top of there, and that's section 19, section 18 and 19 that you're looking at here in the instructions. And what we're then to do is I'm going to have to take that up. Now you'll see, and I think other people have had this problem as well, is this section really doesn't fit very well. So I'm not really, I'm going to be careful with this, but it's just, it is what it is essentially. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to glue this side and then tape it, and then glue the other side so that I can try and get the fit as good as I can without some filling. I'm going to have to do some, quite clearly. As you can see, that gap there is going to be fairly large, but I think we can do this and not have too much in the way of steps and such like. So let's get that in. I can't really bond that from inside very easily. Let's have a look, see what that's wicked through. May have done. But I've tried to ease this out, and I've been reticent about easing the thing out too much because I'll end up with a big gap somewhere if I don't get this absolutely spot on. Hopefully that's okay there. See, there's not a lot in the way of steps there, but there's just big gaps. So it's going to be down to some filling there. So let's hold that there. Just show you what I'm doing just for a minute so that you can see that. There's not much step there actually. Oh, that's good. Pleased about that. That seems fine. What I'll do as well whilst I'm down here is, if I can carefully put some white cap cement down into the back there, just around there, and that might wick through and help with the gap filling. We'll see. That'll be the plan anyway. So that's the fuselage buttoned up. So we can skip forward a step or two on this now. We've done all of the wing building and so on, and we've emitted machine guns, we've put the wing tops on, we're all down to there. We're now really down to step 40, where we've discarded section 19, which is all up to this stage, and we're now putting the main plane onto the aircraft. It's onto the, sorry, let's say this right, shall we? So no editing here, you see. We're putting the fuselage onto the main plane. There you are, that's what I wanted to say. Now, as you can see, that fit is pretty good. I quite like that fit. At the bottom it's a bit of a different matter, but not that bad if you do a bit of work. That needs to be eased out a bit because the fit at the bottom here is that's rather thick and gives a step here, but you can get rid of that step. Now, the other instruction that's given is to put the navigation light in. I've put a navigation light in here. It doesn't reach all the way to the bottom of the fuselage here, but what I've done is masked it, so I can take that mask out after I finish with the painting. Now, the problem you have is that this navigation light locates into this hole, and you can do one of two things, because you'll find some interference between these two joints here, this junction here, and what happens is you can get that in and it sits out like that and all rocks backwards and forwards after that fashion. So you can either cut the top of this off, which I haven't done, or you can open out this hole, which I have done. So it's pretty straightforward, really. I hardly even know why I'm telling you this, but just a curved blade and you can just ease that hole out, and then this allows this to be dropped pretty much straight in there. And as you can see, there's a bit of a gap, but not much of a one, to be honest with you. I think that's pretty good, and at the front, that's going to need minimal work on it, I would say. And so yeah, we can sort of get to work on this one. I'm going to try and get it as central as I don't want to have a bigger gap one side than the other. I don't think I'm going to have that, but as you can see there, let's just zoom in on this and you can probably see, there you go, that's how much the gap is. So we can I can glue that in. Have I done everything? Yeah, pretty much, I think. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to rest that there, because there isn't really a step, and I think there will be a seam there. I need to do just a bit of research there. I think we ought to be okay with that, just resting it there and then just gluing it down. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that should be all right there. So let's get to it. I hope you enjoy these videos. I certainly like making them, and I hope that there's some benefit there. And for those of you that are subscribing, I guess the best compliment you can give is to subscribe to somebody, because you're saying to them, hey, look, what you're doing is good. I like it. Keep doing it. So to all of you people that have done that, I'm very grateful to you. Thanks very much for doing so. And I'm just going to glue down there, by the way. And you know, I'll keep making these videos for as long as people want to watch them, as it were. And you know, with any luck, that'll be for a long time. You know, let me know what you think in the comments, because I always read them. I haven't been many thus far, but then again, I've only got 111 or 112 or something subscribers who come and visit and look at what I do. There we go. Right, that's extra thin for you. So I think we're there on that one. If I had a clamp, I would probably clamp that down. And is there no? See, there's no step there, but there's a gap, and there's no step there either, but a little gap. So I'm going to glue in there. There's glue in there again as well. Because remember, after we've done the top, we're going to have to do the bottom too. And a peg, my peg chain there that I've got. I wonder if I can peg that to clamp it. No, that's not going to work. That's not big enough. I'm going to have to hold that down. Yeah, there are gaps here, but not really steps, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Yeah, that looks okay. So the next bit, I must get some clamps. Anybody can recommend some clamps to me that I could use for this sort of thing? So I only really have pegs and these little tiny areas that I'm trying to glue up here. They're quite difficult to hold, actually. So I'm having to rely to a heavy extent on almost trusting to luck, actually, but there we go. I think that's, yes, I'm going to have to do some work on that. There's no other way for it, but I'm just going to have to do some work on that. There we go, that's that bit. Yeah, so there's a very slight step there. I'm not really going to be doing anything about that just now, but I'll fill and sand. It's a very short step and gap, and at that point we'll be pretty much done in terms of building, because I'll have had the tail planes on and such like as well. Excuse me. See, that's dried. That's quite a solid joint down there now. So there we go. Yeah, I think there are no, I can't feel any steps there at all. I'm quite pleased with the way that's, oh, that's, yeah, see, that's lifted. I don't like that. Yeah, that's slightly twisted. So what I'll do then is, as my last action, I'm going to just hold that in there and allow that to just bond, and then what we'll do is we'll drop a little piece of tape on there, because it's really all I have at this moment to be able to hold this up, and hopefully, yeah, that's held it up. There we go. And we've still got no step that I can feel. So there we go with that, and at 27 minutes, that's a fair few operations done today, including that little piece of sanding there, which I thought would take a long time and didn't. So it's all coming along quite nicely. That's quite satisfactory. There are some problems with putting the kit together, but they're not insurmountable, I think, and I still think that we can have a good looking model kit at the end of this when it's all completed. And I shall bid you good evening for now. Have a good time at the Ice Queen 7's get together. I will try and attend this evening. It's a Sunday today, by the way. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks very much indeed for your time, and cheers for now. Bye bye.